Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I ask that you please silence any cell phones and other electronics and refrain from creating any disruptive sounds. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Chris Reinhardt from Sandals Church to come forward. He will lead us in the invocation. Please arise.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this chance to gather together. I thank you that we live in a place where we not only get a vote, but we also get a voice. God, I thank you for these public servants who've given their time, their lives, their energy to make this a better place. And so, God, I just ask in this time that you would give us clarity. When there seems to be confusion, that we would see things clearly. Lord God, I pray that you'd give us wisdom in how to bring solutions to the problems that we're faced with. And God, I pray you'd give us courage to do the hard things that need to be done. So God, I just thank you so much for our city, its leaders, and this place that not only is, but what it's going to be as we move forward. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Reinhardt. At this time now, I'd like to invite Sophie Mass to come forward. She's a fifth grader at Palm Avenue Elementary School, and she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Remove all hats. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Pastor Reinhardt. This time I'll ask the city attorney if you will report out from closed session.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, we had one closed session item that we discussed this afternoon, the anticipated litigation matter. The city council, by a unanimous vote with council member Barrios absent, approved a settlement in that case.
Thank you. And if you could maybe just briefly introduce yourself.
Yes. Happy to introduce myself. My name is Sonia Carvalho. I'd like to thank the City Council for appointing me as your contract city attorney to provide legal services to the city. I am committed to working hand in hand with your elected city attorney, and I look forward to serving you and your community.
Thank you very much. Happy to have you here. This evening we have two appointments. Miss Angela Halfman to the Animal Control Commission, and Hazel Galleros to the Arts and Historical Preservation Commission.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, was that Mr. Charette the second? On items 1 and 2?
Voting.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry. The motion was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Charette. And the item passes 6-0 with Mr. Barrios absent.
Thank you. And if Angela and Hazel will come forward to be sworn in.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Angela Hoffman,
privilege to be able to
Turn the microphone on.
give this.
Mike, Mayor, the mic.
Thank you. Is that better?
Now lean into it and speak clearly.
Thank you, senior council member.
But I'm not the oldest.
Angela, if you'll come forward, I'd just like to present this commission appointment to you and thank you personally for accepting this commission appointment to the Animal Control Commission and invite you to say a few words.
Thank you. I really look forward to a partnership with the city as well as the rescue community. So I am honored to serve this position. Thank you.
Aziel, if you'll come forward, it gives me great pleasure and it's an honor to be able to present to you this commission appointment by the City Council and the Mayor of the City of San Bernardino to serve on the Arts and Historical Preservation Commission. And so thank you very much and congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much to Mayor Davis and to the council, as well as Dr. Garcia and Ms. Stephanie. I look forward on working on this commission. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Once again, thank you very much for accepting those appointments, and thank you to the council. At this time, I'll invite Councilmember John Valdivia to come forward for Youth Recognition Awards.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me a delight and pleasure to call forward Sia Patel. Sia, are you here? Sia, would you join me, please? Very good to see you, Sia. I wanted to especially recognize Sia Patel, who is awarded the following commendation from the Mayor and Common Council. She was awarded, she's in the 5th grade, goes to Cesar Chavez Middle School, and is going to the International Baccalaureate program. Her awards include perfect attendance. That's awesome. 4.0 GPA, community service, and outstanding student in all subjects, 2nd place in the science project in the whole school, and best of all, and what I'm most excited about, your principal, she's awarded you the principal's award for the school. So it gives me great pleasure to recognize Sia Patel on behalf of the Mayor and Common Council, in recognition of outstanding hard work, diligence, and academic achievement. The City of San Bernardino does hereby commend you for your continued dedication and commitment to academic excellence. Congratulations. Take a picture.
Mr. Mayor, could her family come forward and take their pictures?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor, family.
I think she has some family that might want to
Yes,
take
if
pictures.
the family would join the council member.
Yeah. And you can go right up there and take your picture so you get a good one.
Also, we have some recognition from the State Assembly's office, State Senator Mike Morrell, Senator from the 23rd District, in recognition to Sia Patel. There you are. Also calling up forward Kushi Patel. Kushi, can you join me, please? Kushi Patel has recently attended Cesar E. Chavez Middle School here in San Bernardino. You completed the 8th grade there and achieved 9 medals and 3 certificates. Very excited for you and your future endeavors and successes to you. 9 medals she received were excellence in math, excellence in social studies, excellence in science. You had all year round steady GPA of 4.0. You completed exceeded 30 years of 30 years. Well, that's pretty good. 30 hours of community service. That's awesome. Great. And perfect attendance throughout the year. Excellence in foreign language. You can speak Spanish? Wonderful. That's great. You became a Rotary Scholar, and you also achieved the Principal's Award. The 3 certificates she received also, in addition to many of these accomplishments, the California Junior Scholastic Federation Certificate, the President's Award for Educational Excellence, and the Accelerated Reader Award. Congratulations. Very good job. So on behalf of the Mayor and Common Council, we have a certificate of recognition from our elected officials here. Kushi Patel, in recognition of outstanding hard work and academic achievement, the City of San Bernardino does hereby commend you for your continued dedication and your advancements in education. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job. Take a picture. And also, we have something from our state senator, Senator Morrell, for Kushi Patel. There you are. Good to see you. Ladies, would you like to speak? There you go.
Thank you, everybody here. We really appreciate the recognition you guys have given us. Especially thank you to my family, to my parents. They have supported us throughout up till now, and I know they will support me in my life. All my achievement goes to my family, to my parents. Thank you a lot.
Very good. Well, Mr. Patel, I guess you're on the hook for the rest of your life, she said. You heard it. Would you like to say something? All right. And also these pins, I'd like to give these pins on your behalf. We certainly thank the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Patel. Thank you for your investment here in our community and for academic excellence in these children.
Would the parents like to join council member for a picture?
Come on.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man. You're on the hook. All right. Here we go. Yash, is he taking it?
Yeah.
All right. You good? Great. Okay. Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. Next, we will invite Councilmember Marquez to come forward. She also has a Youth Recognition Award to present.
Thank you, Mayor. Wow, I'm pretty impressed with these young ladies, and the nice thing about it, they're from the city of San Bernardino. Okay, this month I have the honor of recognizing, I'll always call it Student of the Month, and I can say that because this is my last one. Youth recognition, Vanessa Ramirez, can you step up, along with her principal, Hector Murieta from Sierra High School. Come on up. I'd like to share her brief bio. Vanessa Ramirez was born in Paramount, California, and attended elementary school in Pomona. She and her family moved to San Bernardino when she was a middle school student, where she attended Chavez Middle School. She began her high school career at Cajon, but has been at Sierra for the past 2 years. She anticipates graduating in December 2018, although she will not receive her high school diploma until June of 2019. Vanessa's immediate family consists of her mother, brother, and 2 sisters. Her father's deceased. Her mother is a stay-at-home parent, and her brother now lives and works in Ontario. Her sisters attend North Verdamont Elementary School, where Destiny is in the 2nd grade and Esmeralda is in the 1st grade. Vanessa has 2 pet turtles, Sparky and Buster. I get a kick out of that. And I believe that her sisters are here as well. Destiny and Esmeralda, can you join us as well? They are just so precious as they can be. Vanessa has been very active in the district Student Advisory Council. She enjoys being empowered to share her ideas with others on how to make the schools better and safer for the students. She will continue with the council again this year, thanks to the encouragement and inspiration of her principal, Hector Murrieta. Let's give him a round of applause. Vanessa has not decided on her future plans, but she will either attend college or enlist in the military, and I would highly encourage that she can do both. Immediately after graduation, Vanessa plans to volunteer at her sister's elementary school and also at Sierra. She wants all students to stay true to themselves because they will get you where you want to be. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Vanessa Ramirez, Student of the Month for August 2018. City of San Bernardino Certificate of Recognition. The Mayor and City Council honors Vanessa Ramirez, 12th grade Sierra High School, in recognition of outstanding hard work and academic achievement. The City of San Bernardino does hereby commend you for your continued dedication and commitment to academic excellence. Presented this 15th day of August 2018, signed by Mayor Carrie Davis and all 7 council members. Congratulations. And we also have another beautiful certificate from the State Senate, presented by Senator Mike Morrell, representing us in the State Senate 23rd District. Congratulations.
Okay.
I'll hold these for you.
Thank you. Wait. Hello. I'm a little nervous, so please bear with me. So I would like to thank Virginia Marquez. Thank you. Our Mayor, Carrie Davis. Of course, my principal, Mr. Murrieta. And my teacher, she isn't here today, but I would like to thank Ms. Valdez. And my 2 little sisters, which are my motivation every day. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Come on, girls. Come on, don't be shy.
Mr. Murrieta, can I take a picture with you? Oh, yeah, please? Absolutely. I'll stand back.
Sierra High School.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, I'd like to invite Councilmember Mulvihill to come forward. While Councilmember Mulvihill is coming forward, I'd like to also recognize School Board Member Margaret Hill and for her efforts in making sure that we recognize our youth, and also our former Mayor Baez.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm honoring a Citizen of the Month, John Solenberger. If you'd like to come on up. John is one of the block captains for the North D Street group near 30th and 28th Street on D and Stoddard. We have a great number of issues in that particular neighborhood with vacant houses that constantly getting broken into and absentee landlords that don't bother maintaining their landscape. And I think the Public Works Department and the Quality of Life team are very much familiar with your email address. You're constantly in touch with them. But above everything, I think, over the years, I think John has been the most positive promoter of the city. He's always got positive things to say about the city. And it's true that he has a second career as a, I don't know what you call that.
I'm the host and producer of Life in SoCal.
Yeah, and if you're interested, he has a number of programs. And if you wish to visit, www. I think we're hearing some feedback here. www.lifeinsocalstudio.com. If you want to review the great places to visit, great places to eat,
Cool people to meet.
and cool people to meet.
Cool people to meet.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
And so here is from the city, in recognition, dedicated service to the affairs of the community and for the civic pride demonstrated by numerous deeds for the benefit of the cities of San Bernardino, presented this 15th day of August to John Solenberger. So for you.
Thank you very much.
And also from the State Senate, from Senator from the 23rd District, Mike Morrell, in recognition of being named the August 2018 Citizen of the Month by the Mayor and City Council of San Bernardino. Thank you for your commitment, compassion, and devotion to your community. Your efforts are to be admired and commended. Congratulations and best wishes the 15th day of August 2018.
Well,
Congratulations.
Nice. Thank you very much.
And not, not the least is a much coveted lapel pin.
Is it? I love these because I have the SB Strong one in my desk at work.
Okay, well, you can add this to that.
All right.
So let me,
Okay.
well, let you make some few comments.
Oh, okay. I'm never at a loss for words.
Go ahead.
Council body, Mr. Mayor, citizens of San Bernardino, thank you so much for this. This is an honor for me. I don't serve the community for recognition. I do it because I care about my community, and I want to be a part of making things better. And this city is such a gem. I don't know, we get caught up in the day-to-day of the things that we have to deal with in our life, but San Bernardino is a diamond. I've said this before, it's a diamond. And I see great things ahead for this city. It's perfectly located to everything that's great. But look at the community. I was so impressed with those young people. That's our future. And they're coming up in San Bernardino and they're being educated right here. This is encouraging. Now, NBC, CBS, and ABC need to talk about this when they talk about San Bernardino. They need to give that kind of publicity too. But I want to recognize my mentor, Faye Aldridge. She's the one who helped. Come on up. She is our senior block captain for this Campo Santo 25th Street Neighborhood Watch. She was the pioneer of that program in this neighborhood, and she has been the driving force behind it, and she has been my strength. She's been my guide, and she carried me through some of the times when I got frustrated. She said, "John, just keep focused and keep going because we have to look at the end result." So I just wanted to mention her and please give her a round of applause because she's helping to keep this community safe. And our councilman, Jim Mulvihill, anytime I need him, he answers my emails right away and he tackles issues right when we tell him to tackle it. So we're really proud of you as our council person.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get some pictures. I'll
Yes.
stay here for the pictures.
Nope. I'm only as good as the community that.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, we'll invite the Chamber of Commerce to come forward for announcements.
Sorry for that brief interruption, but is there a Brian that needs to call Judy Penman? That's how she interrupted me. There's somebody here named Brian. Ryan? Yes, the newspaper guy, to call Judy Penman. Is he here, right? Good evening, I'm Leslie Stevens, Director of Sales for the Residence Inn by Marriott in San Bernardino, and I'm a board member at the San Bernardino Area Chamber of Commerce, here with the calendar events for the next 2 weeks. August 17th, between 11 a.m. and 1, Assembly Member Eloise Gomez Reyes will be presenting a workshop on understanding federal opportunity zones in the Santa Fe Depot. Call 381-3238 for details and to reserve a space. Music and sports for the last 2 weeks of August, beginning August 18, when Affordable Music Productions presents Legends of Doo-Wop at the California Theater at 7 p.m. Call 888-718-4253 for tickets and general information. Our own Inland Empire 66ers will be hosting home games at the San Manuel Stadium on East Street Friday, August 24th at 7:05, Saturday, August 25th at 6:05, Sunday, August 26th at 5:35, and then August 27th through the 30th at 7:05. Call 888-9922 for details. On Friday, August 24th, beginning at 10 at the Inland Center Mall, we'll be featuring Golden Rule Education Expo in the mall. On Saturday, August 25th, at the California Theater of Performing Arts in San Bernardino, Symphony Orchestra presents a unique musical experience combining actors and orchestra on stage in celebration of the 100th birthday of Leonard Bernstein. Call 381-5388 for information. The Chamber Coffee Class speakers for the remainder of August will be Sergeant Ron Passo of the San Bernardino County Auto Theft Detail on Wednesday, August 22nd, and on Wednesday, August 29th, Joe Aceto of the San Bernardino Unified School District will be updating us on what's happening in the school districts. Both meetings begin at 7:30 at the Chamber offices. Call 885-7515 for more information, and enjoy the rest of your summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move into our consent calendar, I'd like to express appreciation to the city manager for the great job in putting out our community newsletter. I had a chance to review it, and a lot of good information in there, and so thank you for your efforts at keeping our community informed.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to take public
And those are available, I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to. And copies will be available at city facilities. It is available online, and so people can either get online and get it, or we do have copies available here. And I was going to request that the council consider moving item number 13 from the consent calendar item and place it under staff reports. We really inadvertently included that under a consent calendar, but it is a first reading of an item, and we prefer that it has a chance to be vetted, hear a presentation from Trish and her staff. So we would request that that be moved to staff reports.
Very good.
And Mayor, I was going to suggest you take public comment before consent calendar.
Yes, I was planning on doing that. But thank you for the nudge. I need to declare conflict for item number 11, and it has to do with the campaign contribution. This time, we'll allow for public comments. Catherine Beck.
You see Catherine?
Yep.
Please state the item that you're speaking on.
It's item number 13.
Thank you.
So I thought it was delayed, so I'm a little bit surprised, but that's okay. All right, as a 43-year resident on Arrowhead Avenue, I'm here representing our neighborhood group, which extends from 30th Street to Thompson Place, as well as speaking for Our Lady of the Rosary Parish and Elementary School on 25th and Arrowhead. On Monday, August 13th, the Public Works and Human Relations Commission made the recommendation to reduce the speed limit of 45 miles an hour on Arrowhead to 40 miles an hour. This was based upon a critical speed survey completed this summer. To be noted, it is the prior 2016 survey was done under the lower speed limit of 40 miles an hour. As you know now, drivers have become accustomed to driving at least 5 miles over any posted speed. In the 2016 survey, it showed 85% of the drivers surveyed were driving over the posted speed at that time. The 2018 survey reflects drivers becoming accustomed to the higher 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, thus showing higher speed results in this new survey. The Commission on Monday evening was somewhat receptive to a change of 35 miles an hour that we brought to them until the issue of enforcement was brought up. During a neighborhood meeting on July 17th, 2018, Captain Lawhead acknowledged at our meeting that the city at this time lacks the necessary resources to provide adequate traffic enforcement for any given street on a regular basis. This lack of enforcement is reflected in higher speeds on our streets. Over this last year, only 4 traffic citations have been issued on Arrowhead Avenue per the information I received from the San Bernardino Police Department. This further supports our contention that the speed limit has been not adequately enforced, as shown by the past and current traffic surveys. Therefore, reducing the speed limit may indirectly reduce the overall average speed on Arrowhead Avenue and change the driving habits of area drivers. Between 30th Street and Thompson Place, there are 7 cross streets and approximately 109 single-lane driveways, for the most part, require drivers to back out onto Arrowhead Avenue. There are numerous obstructions along the street due to large palm trees and curbside vehicle parks. As you can see on the photos that I had someone pass out earlier, this is a typical backing from my driveway at the apron at 5-second intervals. There is at one point that you see a truck is totally restricted from sight from that one palm tree. Since January 2018, 2 major accidents have occurred on my street. One at the intersection of Arrowhead and Marshall Boulevard, and the second one on March 11th, 2018. My next-door neighbor and passenger were severely injured as they left their driveway. Both, and that's a picture on the back. As you can see, the photo on the back shows...
Catherine, your time's expired. If you could please wrap it up.
Okay. This is it wasn't just a simple fender bender. In conclusion, the critical speed survey for 2018 addresses numerical findings that was presented as a speed safe to drive, but never spoke to a speed safe for the residents. But in the interests of public safety and quality of life, we are asking for a safe speed for the residents of 35 miles an hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Van Eilenberg.
Good evening. My name is Ben Eilenberg. I'm here to talk on number 22, which is the cannabis regulations. These are the regulations being done on the first reading, I believe, to see whether they will be adopted to match what has been put forward to the citizens of San Bernardino on the ballot, to see whether it will catch, whether these regulations being passed by the city will match what is on the ballot. I recognize that this is a rare time for me to come and say to the city, good job. I think that it's going great. I'm very happy that this is happening. I think that the fact that the city simultaneously wants the voters to look at this issue, but is also taking affirmative action is great. And frankly, because I recognize I'm one of the ones driving some of the litigation, it might be nice to hear. Good job from someone who's been opposed to you on so many things in this realm. I think that you guys are being proactive. I'm glad you are. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Chow.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alice Chow, and I'm president of Dream Team Angels Rescue. I'm also a volunteer at the shelter, and I'm a teacher in the San Bernardino City Unified School District. This is what we've done so far with a group of volunteers that have gotten together and rescues for the shelter. We have taken private tours at local shelters, Upland, Rancho Cucamonga, and Palm Springs. They have a solid volunteer-based shelter, also run in partnership with their cities. And we would like to model after them as well. So they're open to answering our questions, telling us what they have done that works and what doesn't work. So they've been very open and honest about that. We have begun organizing our 501c3 nonprofit, and we are gathering our board members. We have gathered many San Bernardino City residents who want to play an active role in fundraising and volunteering. We are approaching schools so students can volunteer with their parents. The San Bernardino City residents and outside cities also want to help. And we have people coming forward saying, look, this is what we have to offer, this is what we want to do, instead of the usual, this is what you should do, and complaining. So it's a different type of population that is approaching us now. We have so many people approaching us now that we do not have enough time to call them back or email them. So we plan on holding a few town hall meetings so that we get larger groups together and we can share some ideas and recruit more people. We have also many organizations who are willing to donate and help us fundraise, as well as private donors. Petco is one of them. This is our one-year plan. The shelter becomes its own entity, like it did before the bankruptcy, break away from the police department immediately. We use existing shelter improvement funds, the money that we do have, to make the shelter improvements and to make it a safer environment for its employees. Meanwhile, our 501c3 group will recruit, screen, and do background checks of volunteers so that we can have a robust volunteer program that will assist the shelter. We will do this all by ourselves. We will seek private donations and do fundraising to assist the shelter. Year 2, continue with Plan 1 and begin aggressive fundraising to build the new shelter, locate a site where the new shelter will be built, and years 3 to 5, start building the new shelter. So all of this can happen, but we need to be in partnership with the city council members. We have approached the animal control commissioners, they're on board, and we have been communicating with them actually several times a week. So questions? Okay, real quick, I want to wrap it up. We are the people that the residents approach first to answer questions. We problem solve. We get donations to the shelter. We get volunteers to the shelter to help. When we cannot answer these questions, you get those emails. We would like to make it so that we receive all the emails and we could take care of the problems. But we can't do it without your help. You know, we're only volunteers and rescues. If you work together with us, we can do most of the work. The city shelter will become better, you know, improvements, and we can provide for the residents and their pets. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Chow, there is a meeting that I was made aware of that's going to take place in August, August 25th, I believe.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that meeting?
Yes.
It looks like that's an attempt to try to address it on a regional basis also. So,
Yeah, so we have surrounding city residents, other
so
cities.
you're aware of that meeting?
I'm aware of the meeting, but
Okay.
that is in Redlands.
Correct.
Yeah, so we have other residents in other surrounding cities that want to help San Bernardino. So if we can work together to solve the problems here, then we can prevent other groups misunderstanding what's going on within the city.
I would just suggest that you stay apprised of that meeting so that you.
Oh, yes, we have people
and-
attending,
Great.
and I'm in communication with them as well. But
Very
we
good.
would like to lessen the negativity and the rumors that are going on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Andrea Nasis?
Hello, my name's Andrea Nisis, and I'm here to ask for your help again today. Back in June of 2017, the chief of police came to the San Bernardino City Shelter, and it had a meeting with a group of all the employees, and he told them to start looking for a new job, that the future of the shelter would be closing. So that happened. So in the past year, Richard retired, Mike was out on medical, Jenny quit, Christy quit, Lizette quit, Jessica transferred, Robert quit, and Shauna left. One person has been hired to replace, a part-time person to replace all those people that left. Last week, there was only 2 employees for over 180 dog kennels. There's public out there waiting. We can adopt dogs out, but there's no staff to come out there and help the public. The public stood there and went to the desk. I mean, I'm helping people. I don't even work there. And, you know, it's just not good. I mean, you've got, this one person was cleaning 180 kennels, feeding 180 dogs, and there was no one in the cat room. The cat room was empty. There was one volunteer in there. That was it. And we need help. They've posted the positions, but you know what? The police department, I think they're trying to sabotage the shelter. They wanted it closed, and now they're not going to hire anybody? I mean, you have to hire people. 1/2 a person to replace 12 people that left is not acceptable. And I need your help. Can you please? I know they posted it. There's been 130-something applicants, and they need to push it. Will they hire? I mean, we've been through this before. Where's HR, and why isn't the union involved? Why isn't someone helping? I mean, these 2 employees, one of them already has an application in at another facility, and when she leaves, what's going to happen? There will be nobody there. Andrea Miller, are you listening?
I am. I'm
Okay.
looking for facts so I can respond to you.
I just really am concerned because I am there every day, and I see these people, this staff is working so hard, and good people have left. We really need your help here, if you could push the hiring. I
Thank you.
appreciate your help.
Dave Brown.
Yeah, I'm looking for it too.
I want to address a couple of situations at the shelter. First of all, to Andrea's complaint about the job situation. The listings wasn't last week. It was on Wednesday. I checked the website. There was no posting. It went up on like Friday, and it closes next month. I was told that 10 people need to be hired. I was corrected by a representative of the police department. Says, oh no, we only need 5. And so I'd like to know exactly how many people are we going to hire. Also, the closing is not till the 3rd of next month. Then they're going to have to go through, we're going to be a whole month or longer before people get hired and are at the shelter. These poor animals have no one to take care of them. We volunteer, we get turned away. We don't, there's a bunch of us that want to help, but we're being turned away. We're not able to help. And also talking to this representative, I went to the animal control meeting last week, and he said that they have brought in people to evaluate the condition of the buildings and everything else. I was told that the ASPCA and Humane Society came in and said that the buildings need to get torn down. I asked him, I said, as a qualified person from construction, engineer, architect, been in here to look at them. He changed the subject. I'm not sure if these 2 organizations, I'm sure they have a wish list, but we've got a certain amount of funds. We just can't go out and start, spending money. But we need somebody in there that can evaluate the buildings, take a look at them, see where the problems are, and come up with a cost analysis to repair or tear part of it down, and rebuild it. But not people that aren't qualified in that area, in the construction field, architects or engineers. Thank you.
Thank you. Dorothy Garcia.
Mayor and council members. Between 2014 and 2017, James Fallows and his wife Deborah Fallows traveled across the country, looking at cities all over the country, cities and towns, to see what it is that makes them go, what helps them thrive. And they wrote a book, which was published late last year, called Our Towns. I'm going to, because I think it's really important that you read this book, I read it and I took notes of what I thought was important in each one of the cities that they visited. The books, oh, they're being passed out now, okay. And so what I'm doing, though, is loaning them to you. And you then, when you're done reading, can either get them back to me, or you can take them to one of our libraries and donate them in my name. This way, I'm not gifting you, I'm loaning. One of the things, and I did send to some of you, and I don't know if you read it, at the very end of the book, their summary of the 10 points in a thriving city. I think that's really important for us to look at and to see, do we have this? Do we have this? Are we working on this? Where are we? I think you'll enjoy the book. Some of it gets a little cumbersome. I think you'll see that San Bernardino has a short shrift, gets a short shrift. And one of the things that some of us are doing is making a list of the things that they missed in San Bernardino. And I will share that list with you at some point, because there were a lot of wonderful things going on that they totally missed. The other thing I want to tell you about, as long as we're talking about the city, is an art exhibit, a photographic exhibit called This Beautiful City. It's photographs of San Bernardino, taken by Michael Hardison, and there are 21 photos. They're on display right now at the Garcia Center for the Arts. The grand opening is Friday at 6 o'clock. There'll be a reception. You will love these photographs. They give you, as he says, a perspective on San Bernardino that combats what he started doing this when shortly after the terrorist attack. He felt that he needed to respond in some way. He also did it in response to the articles in the Los Angeles Times and the photographs there. I think you will see the beautiful San Bernardino if you come to that exhibit. And I hope you enjoy the book. I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Porter?
Mayor, council, good people. Make sure we pay attention to those rules up there, because full attention to the speaker, it says right up there on that wall. Full attention. Full attention, right? See, looking down and stuff like that kind of bugs me, because it's happening too much with these speakers up here. They're up here, they're taking time out of their day, and they want to speak, and they want to be listened to, not looking at facts to see what's better. But what I really came up to speak about was Transparent California. Now, I was shown this website, and unfortunately, I was so angry after I read it, I had to sit down and calm down. And then what I did is I started to count the pages of salaries and retirements over $100,000 in our city. It's like 17, 18 pages worth. Now, granted, a great majority of those are the warriors of our city. But what are we doing to get these warriors into our city to live here? How can we entice these warriors to come here, live in our communities, live in our neighborhoods? That's where you can make money, Miss City Manager. You could have these workers, instead of taking from the poor and giving to these other counties and these other cities, we can entice these warriors to live here, like Finkel did on my street my whole time growing up. It was very important to have that police officer living on our street. Everybody went to him, and I know that's sometimes a big deal, but maybe if their house is getting paid for or their rent's getting subsidized in some way, maybe they will come here. And in the long run, if they're spending their salaries here, guess who benefits? Right? Now, I was going to go into how we could divide up some of these huge salaries into $50,000 a year jobs and really put people to work in our city. But it's already a little too late, because these salaries are already being given out. What I would hope is when we look at the salaries for the future council members here, we take into consideration the mean salary of San Bernardino and try not to make any of these salaries close to $500,000, $300,000, $200,000, or $100,000. We are top heavy. You guys understand what that means? Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. No other speaker slips at this time. We'll move to the consent calendar. Item number 13 has been pulled. Do we have a motion for this balance?
Move approve.
Excuse me, I forgot. Do you have anything you want to pull?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Councilmember Richard? Councilmember Nichol?
My questions have been answered, no.
Thank you. Councilmember Charette?
No, sir.
Councilmember Valdivia? Councilmember Marquez?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the consent calendar, minus item 13, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Ms. Marquez, and I'm going to need to take a voice vote because I had to reboot. Ms. Marquez?
Yes.
Movahill, I'm sorry, thank you for the correction, Mr. Movahill. Mr. Valdivia?
Yes.
Mr. Charette? Yes. Mr. Nichol?
Yes.
Ms. Richard?
Yes.
Mr. Movahill?
Yes.
The item passes 6-0 with Mr. Barrios absent.
Thank you. The first item for this staff report is item 13A. It's the first reading of the amendment of Chapter 10.52 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code to reduce the speed limit on Arrowhead Avenue between Highland Avenue and Thompson Place from 45 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour.
Mayor, members of the council, I asked Trish to begin this presentation because following all of our discussions regarding commissions, we recognized that there were some things that we did not have advisory bodies looking at that we think would be beneficial, and this is certainly one of those instances. So Trish is going to talk about the process that we've changed related to setting of speed limits and looking at other traffic control devices. Mahmood, then, our city's traffic engineer, will actually give the report, and we certainly are available to answer questions. I've also asked the Assistant Chief McBride to be able to address any enforcement-related questions that you have.
Thank you.
All right, Honorable Council and Mayor, just a little bit of kind of background on how we're changing the process. Rules and state rules and regulations guide how we set our speed limits and signage, those types of things. What we've done is studies, and we've brought them directly to council. What we've implemented is the review by the Public Safety Advisory Committee. We began that this Monday, bringing this one and three others that you will see, three other stop sign recommendations that you'll see on future councils. We got their feedback, and in the future, we'll be incorporating the committee's recommendations to you within our staff report, so you'll know what that advisory committee has deemed. For this one tonight, you'll hear, as Mahmood walks through this, the advisory committee supported the recommendation based on the study, but also asked that the city look at some other kind of traffic calming options like lighted speed signs and things like that. Mahmood's going to give you the background on why we do these traffic studies, why we changed, and what brought us here today, and then the findings of the study. So,
good evening, Mayor and Council. Early in 2016, the city has performed a traffic survey and study for about 103 segments of the city streets. The result of that was concluded and brought to the City Council with the report, and we have implemented the changes as far as the street, limit signs and pavement markings. Early this year, we had some complaint from the residents about Arrowhead, which was 40 miles per hour before the 2016 study, was raised into 45 miles per hour based on that study. So the complaint about that, why it was raised. So we explained the situation and the way the study result into the increase the 5 miles per hour. So we were asked to look at the speed survey again and reconfirm and see if things changed. So we went ahead, we run 5 speed survey locations within the Arrowhead Avenue. And the result of that came close to the 45, a little bit under the average was about 44.2 miles per hour to be exact, as for the 85 percentile figure, which is normally in the study you move the number into the next level of the 5 miles per hour. In this case, because of the residential area and in our engineering judgment, we recommended to bring it down to the 40 instead of keeping it at 45. So that's the result of the recent study, where we recommended to bring it down to the 40, and in the future we look into the corridor again and see if the things change within a year or so. We presented that to the commission this Monday, as our director stated, and they recommended the reduction to 40 for this one.
I will just add as a little bit more background. The state regulations require that in order for a speed limit to be enforceable, it has to be based on a study. And that's what this traffic study was, is to determine the speed. The speed is determined or set as enforceable by the 85th percentile of the actual speeds recorded within the study itself. That's why we're recommending a reduction from 45 to 40 based on that new study.
Thank you. Councilman Mulvihill?
Yes, I have, Mitch, can you put up my photographs? I've listened to the presentation, and I've listened to the opinions of comments of the neighbors, and I think there's really more than one neighbor. How many people are really here concerned about number 6? Can you just stand up? I think there's several of you.
We're a small group, but
Yeah.
everyone has school board meetings or school meetings.
Yeah, thank you so much. What I've passed out to you is an article that came out of the LA Times, and I think it's a really very balanced presentation. It goes over what the mechanism is, that there's a state law that demands that speed limits have got to be established by some sort of more or less a scientific analysis. But exceptions can be made. And so I've given you this. On page number 3, though, exceptions can be made. And I'd like to if you turn to page number 3, and I've outlined in red, in LA on Fulton Street, the speed limit was set at a certain level. A later analysis, and I'll just read from the paper, a later analysis found that Fulton's critical speed was 42 miles per hour, not too different from this. Engineers rounded it down to 40 miles per hour, then reduced the limit by another 5 miles per hour, citing disconnected sidewalks, varying street widths, dense shrubbery restricting views of driveways. The city set the limit at 35 miles an hour, leaving it unchanged. Cities can reduce the speed limit by an additional 5 miles per hour in some circumstances, as Los Angeles did on Fulton, by citing collision records, and you saw photographs of recent collisions, safety issues for bicyclists, pedestrians, or conditions not readily apparent to the driver, including hidden driveways, nearby parks, and schools. Let me show you some photographs that I've taken. Oops. Need to get back to number 1. Okay, this is a shot of Arrowhead looking north from, oops, are we on a? This is looking north from 30th Street on Arrowhead. I think, Mitch, can we get that off there? Okay. I'm standing just about on 30th Street, looking up north on Arrowhead. And as you can see, there's lots of cars parked along here. lots of trees. You don't notice the hedges so much. But again, looking at the fact that the council has the responsibility to look after the safety of the residents, not just what the engineers say as far as what the mandates of the law. You can change this if there is some justification, and I think there is some justification. If I move over to the sidewalk, you have a better idea of just what I guess you're going to have to do it manually. Looking at the side, you can see what the hedges look like here, and also the trees and so forth. There's about 20 driveways here. And again, extremely difficult to see for drivers pulling out of there. Oh, next. This is on Arrowhead, just north of Marshall, and I think you've pretty much seen this before. You can see the hedges going right out to the sidewalks. I mean, there's cars. There's a car right here, by the way. And there. Another one, Mitch. And this shows you those rather majestic palm trees, but they really block out, particularly if you move one more, Mitch. You can see here, it completely obscures a distance beyond, say, about 30 feet. Now that's along Arrowhead. Mitch, one more. This is Holy Rosary Academy. There are approximately 170 students, preschool to 8th grade, that are dropped off here every morning with the parking taking place out in front. Mitch, another one. And you can't really see too much on the shadow. If we could turn off these lights, it'd be a little bit better. But again, cars parked in front. By the way, school is not open yet today. But there's cars parked out. And next one, Mitch. Again, you have a constant interaction between pedestrians and automobiles and students. Now, there are stoplights here, by the way. Every week on Wednesday, most of the students from the school cross Arrowhead to attend church services at the cathedral. Now, there are stoplights here, but I tell you, I don't pull out on a green light without slowly looking both ways. Over the last 6 months, I've been proven at least 3 times that people just blow them. And so, again, accident waiting to happen. So from my point of view, there is justification for the council, I think, making a realistic decision of lowering the speed limit 5 more miles per hour to 35 miles an hour. Even lower than that, but then 35 miles per hour would at least be along with what the rules can mandate, that you can drop it, and it is within our prerogative to lower it another 5 miles per hour, given the fact that we've got hedges, we've got trees, we've got parked vehicles, we've got schools and playgrounds. There's playgrounds here as well. So I ask that my colleagues to please, and I will move that we establish a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit along Highland Avenue, or along Arrowhead Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move. Did that conclude your presentation?
That's concluded.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Valdivia?
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a historical timeline on the establishment of speed zones, and has it ever been degraded to the point of 35 miles an hour on this stretch?
No, I guess historically it's based on the previous studies was 40 miles per hour. And that's the reason why we said. Okay,
when did it go up to 45?
45 is in the study 2016.
2016 it went back up.
Went up. And since then, right now, we went back and we checked again 5 different locations just to make sure that we're capturing most of the location traffic.
Has the Public Works Department already, I assume that all markings and traffic signal lanes are marked, there's sufficient sidewalk markings, and that all of the Public Works signage is up for pedestrians. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. All the,
well,
we changed all the signs and the.
but the signs are up. Our
Yes.
obligation
Yes.
has been met, and now you're suggesting that help me understand, you did a traffic study, 5 different counts, and that's why you're suggesting, staff is recommending 40 miles an hour?
40 miles per hour.
Okay. And I'm a little bit, I'm not understanding the logic. Why are we going south all the way to Holy Rosary? I mean, isn't that a school zone already?
The
And
sec-
don't they have the markings for a 25 mile an hour?
Correct, in the school zone, it remain 25
Okay.
during the school time. Beyond that point, goes back to the 45.
So I'm just
However, we don't sign near the schools, the 45, because it becomes confusion to the driver. So we'll leave it at the signs for 25. Beyond the zones reach, we, signing for the 45.
So beyond that, northbound on Arrowhead, beyond the school zone, there's signage, traffic signage that increases the speed limit, is that right?
Correct.
And that signage is up to date, and the markings and the lanes are also marked?
Correct.
That doesn't necessarily
well-
mean, though, we may want to do some things, and we will certainly ask code enforcement to go out and talk to the neighbors about if there's overgrown shrubbery and things that are creating issues. We will look at that too and make sure that all that's up to date. Because there was a reference to maybe some of the foliage on property was obstructing. We will make sure that that's been cleared.
But isn't that personal property? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the prerogative of an owner
Yeah,
to
unless it's a
maintain.
exactly,
Right.
unless it's a violation of city code, but otherwise we won't be able to deal with that. Correct.
I'm going to learn this
City
system,
Attorney.
if I may. Mayor, one of the things I'd like to maybe suggest is, when we look at speed limits and the law that requires us to rely upon the warrants that are made, and this is the scientific process, one of the things I think we need to be really careful about is having our conversation in public about the potential liability issues. I want to tell you that I have been personally involved in helping communities reduce those speed limits down to an additional 5 miles an hour. One of the things I'd like to recommend is, if that's a direction you'd like to go in, maybe to direct your staff to look further into those issues without putting on the record today what those concerns might be. So one of the things you may want to do is carefully consider the staff recommendation with additional direction to staff to take a scientific look at whether we can make the findings. I think a case might have been made tonight, but we need to be very careful about making that case, as it could work both ways, if you understand what I'm saying in terms of potential liability.
Thank you. Councilman Charette?
Thank you. And thank you to our new city attorney. I have never had that much information given to me on one item, so thank you very much. I'm confused now. No, I'm kidding. I hear you. I hear you perfectly. I probably, more than anybody in this room, except maybe the residents, am as familiar with that street as anybody here. I use it particularly between 30th and Thompson Place 2 or 3 times a day. I'm on it all the time. South of 30th Street, the 35 mile an hour zone, I think probably might make some sense, because it does go from 4 lanes to 2. And then on down towards Holy Rosary and on down to Highland Avenue, and that does become just 2 lanes. And I could see the 35 mile an hour zone there going south. I think just the nature of that street, a 35 mile an hour zone is not going to be adhered to. I hear the residents. I understand that. But I think a 40 mile an hour zone, it was once 40. We took it up to 45. To bring it back down to 40, I think would be a good start, and then follow up with the recommendations of the city attorney that we look further. I would have to respectfully disagree with some of what's been presented here, because, as I say, I drive it every day, 2 or 3 times a day, and I don't find it to be as difficult with cars coming and going. There are cars parked, but it is a 4-lane road north of 30th, north of 30th, north of Marshall. So I would go with the recommendation that we go ahead with the 40 mile an hour from, say, 30th north to Thompson Place, and 35, if we can do that, or with further study, do that going south. So I don't know if that's maybe a kind of a compromise there.
And again, I think it would be with direction to staff that we will go back and look at the warrants, giving additional consideration or due consideration.
And that we don't do anything on this tonight? Is that what is that what we're suggesting?
Yeah.
I mean, that, I know it's up,
Yeah.
I get that.
If you want to limit it to that one stretch, but I would suggest rather you refer it back to us to look at some additional considerations related to particular stretches of that roadway, and then come back with some recommendations after we've reviewed the warrants.
I also would question, and maybe I'm setting myself up for some real problems here, but the markings, they certainly could be freshened up, I think. I'm sure the signs are up, but the street markings, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, from Marshall, just as you turn north on Arrowhead, I think the street signs that normally say 40 or 45, I think they've been blacked out and haven't been replaced. I'm not sure of that. It seems like that's the case. But I certainly think the street markings and the delineators, the lane delineators, could certainly be freshened up. I'm sure that's true throughout the city. Folks, be happy that we're going to lobby to get at least Arrowhead cleaned up. Well, I don't think that's going to happen, and again, I drive it awfully, and I personally don't see the palm trees and the trees that we're dealing with as real, seriously. Well, you can when I'm done, Jim. I'll be happy to listen to what you got to say. I'm speaking from experience. I don't live there, so I'm not backing out, but I also don't deal with a lot of people backing out. I mean, it's not like that's happening just constantly. So, again, it's hard to balance that, and I understand what you're saying, and I am not really against what you're trying to do here. I understand the safety concerns, but I would probably go, again, defer to a further study of this and see what we can do. And if it's 35, I'll drive 35 miles an hour.
Councilman Mulvihill?
Yeah, I think Councilman Charette is missing the point. You're driving through. It's the residents that are having their vision blocked coming in and out of the driveway. So yeah, you've got a clear road there. It's the trees and the hedges and the parked cars that are the problem. You don't see them. And so what I'm saying is that the issues that have been pointed out in the LA Times article, we've got dense shrubbery restricting views of driveways. We've got hidden driveways. We've got nearby parks and schools. I applaud the fact that the public works and the engineers have established the critical speed limit of 40 miles per hour. But the point is, we can drop that. We have the prerogative to drop that 5 miles per hour. Because of the reasons that are pointed out, which are perfectly justified. And I think it's really our responsibility.
And I think that what I'd like to just add to that is that may be the case, but we couldn't do that tonight without making the required findings and bringing it back to you. So yes, you may have presented some information which would lead to that conclusion, but there's a process that we have to go through. And so therefore, that's why it was my recommendation to the city manager that she can decide how and when, but that you might want to give direction to the staff to take a look at that to determine whether the findings can be made to reduce it the additional 5 miles an hour.
I'll go along with that.
I'll
move that we
There was no second for
continue
your
this.
first motion.
Oh,
Yeah. Councilmember Marquez?
Real quickly, I go there frequently, not as much as Councilmember Charette, maybe once a month. But I do know that you have the school and you have the church, and on Sundays it's pretty crazy. But I do want to hear from our police department, from the enforcement piece. I know that our traffic unit is somewhat limited. They can't be there 24/7. So shed some light on this.
Press your, please.
That was already on. Good evening, Mayor and Common Council. I'll address kind of the issue of the speed enforcement and then also with our traffic unit. But first of all, the one thing that you want to look at, some of the things that you're talking about, the density of the shrubbery and removing of the trees and such, that actually is counterproductive to what you're trying to do, because that opens up the roadway and encourages drivers to drive faster. So traffic calming techniques typically restrict the view of things and get people to drive slower. The safer they feel on a roadway, the normal behavior of drivers, they'll speed up and drive faster. So it's counterproductive to what you're trying to accommodate, get done. So I would encourage the city, when we look at things, to look at traffic calming techniques. And there's a wide variety of types of techniques, and some of those are actually restricting down lanes. And if you remember back years ago down here in downtown, we wanted to slow traffic as people drove through downtown. So we built out the curbs and stuff to get people to slow down so they'd see the shops downtown and then hopefully shop downtown and buy stuff. And it was like narrowing the roadway that caused people to slow down. So that's the issue that we look at. And what you do is when you make a speed limit that's artificially low or lower than what the traffic and engineering studies suggest, then that could be what people commonly refer to as a speed trap. And it becomes very difficult to enforce those. We can write the ticket, but that's not to say that it's going to be upheld in court. A lot of savvy drivers are aware that for us to go outside of the statutory limits of the speed, like 15 in a non-controlled intersection or 25 in a residential neighborhood, that you have to conduct a traffic survey to adjust that speed. And that's based on the normal driving behavior of the people on that roadway. And so if you make it artificially lower than the 85th percentile of the driver, then it looks like you're making it artificially low to write tickets. And the judges will make it very difficult for you to actually uphold that in court. So that being said, we do have a city that's 70 square miles. We do have 8 officers assigned to the traffic unit. I'll give some direction for those units to kind of pay particular attention, or some of them at least pay particular attention to that stretch of highway or roadway on Arrowhead Avenue. And one thing that we can do is always look at some traffic calming techniques in the city, do some traffic enforcement, and then go out and do another traffic survey to see if that's made any effect on the driving conditions of the people on the roadway. And then we can use that current traffic study to actually reduce the speed limit.
Councilor Mulvihill?
Yeah, I'd like to, Chief McBride has brought up a topic, the traffic calming. Even a bike lane would help, narrowing the speed of the cars to one lane on either side of that median would be helpful, I think. It certainly has, I think, on Mountain View, where it took place. But again, and I guess I would move that if we're going to be continuing this, to allow the city manager to look at the topics that have been brought up this evening, and also take a look at traffic calming techniques, given the fact that we could narrow the drivable portions of Arrowhead that would cause people to slow down. I think it'd be quite valuable. So I'd like to move that particular portion of it, if I get a second. I'll second that. Thank you.
Councilman Nickel?
Yeah, well, I was just going to, and I know other cities, I think the city of Yucaipa actually spent quite a bit on Yucaipa Boulevard with roundabouts and other features. And it's actually added to the aesthetics. It's got people to kind of stop and pay attention to their community. It's actually built some community pride in parts of the town that were for a long time neglected. So I think to the point of traffic calming and other features, I think, and I would anticipate that we're probably a community that could probably qualify for some of those types of I think that this area is, the homes there, the community there, I think is really something that I think we can take a lot of pride in as a community. And I think, maybe we can find some ways to address the needs of those neighborhoods, address the traffic issue, but perhaps put in some features that also add to the aesthetic appeal of the community and make it a place that's even better for everyone. So, I'd like to look at a range of other options too.
Great.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. City Clerk?
You may all push your buttons now. So the motion was to continue the item to allow staff to give additional consideration of the warrants and return with recommendations based on that study and potential traffic calming measures.
and again, I apologize, Gigi, because I wasn't sure exactly, but really, I'm going to be looking at the additional considerations that have been raised this evening and compare those to the warrants to see whether there are appropriate findings that could be made that would warrant a reduced speed limit, further reduced speed limit, and also consider the possibility of some traffic calming measures to assist that area. So I think is that the motion that I heard? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And the motion was made by Mr. Mulvihill, seconded by Ms. Marquez, and it passes 6-0.
Thank you. We now move to item number 19. I believe we'll also consolidate 19 and 20 in the discussion. Item number 19 is a resolution of intent to establish Community Facilities District 2018-1 for safety services of the City of San Bernardino and levy special taxes on property within the district. Item number 20 is resolutions of intention to establish Community Facilities District 2018-2, Vermont Ranch of the City of San Bernardino, and incur bonded indebtedness in an amount not to exceed $5 million for certain public improvements.
Mr. Mayor, we are going to give the staff report consolidating these items, then we'll ask that you take action separately because of the nature of them. And then Brent does have an item. We do need to give you a replacement page, changing the boundaries. That is available as well on the side. So Brent's going to distribute some additional information and then begin his presentation.
The map is drawn around the boundary with a change the developer made us aware of after we'd already submitted the report. So it was, there's no new information, it's correcting the map that you have. So, sure, yeah. Do one of each. And the maps will look identical, basically, but one is for 2018-1 and one is for 2018-2. And you'll shortly understand why they are identical.
Are these collated?
Keep passing it. Yes, they're collated. Pass it down.
It's a full-service city manager's office.
HR did not, no, they're just two. We're good. We're good. Do you need it?
Can you pass?
Here's an extra one. I mean, do you have another one coming?
Perfect, we're good. Additionally, we have representatives from the developer here this evening. Felix and Arlene, raise your hand, you can see you. And then we have also representatives from the financial consultants team, Attorney Lawrence Chan and Shane Spicer with Spicer Consulting Group, who have put the information together for us tonight, or helped put the information together. So I will begin the presentation and then have questions afterwards. You'll recall in December of 2017, basically that same team of people brought to you information about various financing options that you'd requested in a workshop environment to explore options that would help support development of the city. At that time, community facilities districts was kind of the primary thing we talked about, though we went through a lot of information that day. CFDs really represent what is kind of the key financial mechanism these days for developers to use to help underwrite the cost of their developments. It is really a best practice tool. It's got multiple uses, which makes it an attractive option. It can do what we call facilities districts, where you're financing hardscape infrastructure, that kind of thing, impact fees, or it can be services district, which is we're proposing one of each this evening, where you would fund a revenue source for the state to fund operating costs for the new district area that revenues generated by that area are not sufficient to support. At the workshop in December of 17, you asked staff to come back and bring goals and policies, which is a requirement before you form a CFD. And we brought that to you in January of 2018. You adopted those. And the goals and policies allowed for both services CFDs and infrastructure CFDs. When that was done, staff spent time then kind of exploring the concept of services CFDs further, doing the analysis work necessary to support making that proposal to you. That's been done and is part of the work tonight then. The results were reviewed with the Verdamont Development Group that's been meeting for several years up there, exploring options to how to get that area developed. And then the idea was to arrive at an amount that was worked for them and their fiscal analysis, as well as that was fair to the city as well, in terms of trying to cover the costs that we're going to incur beyond the revenues that are generated there. We reached that agreement. 385 was kind of the magic number for the time being right now, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And so that's the proposal to you. That would be the amount annually levied on each home initially in the 2018-1 CFD, which is the one track that's starting this process, but ultimately would be for other developments in that same area. It would be a citywide kind of CFD, allowing us to generate revenues for when development doesn't pay its own way. The next step after that process, then, when we arrived at the details for that, was to actually have them apply to form a CFD. That was done. We received the application from the developer, 17329 LLC, which is a creative title for their tract, which happens to be tract number 17329. They're an affiliate of GFR Homes, and they are building in the north end of town. Their applications for 74 homes to be called Verdamont Ranch, and that CFD we're proposing to call 2018-2 if approved. The other developer is also moving with an application to form CFD 2018-1, which would be the services CFD, because they are the first developer going forward. They would be the formation sponsor. There's no additional benefit for them in that regard. They simply would be the formation sponsor, and it's because both of these CFDs would sit exactly on their track to start with. That's why the maps look identical, because it's the same set of 74 houses then. They have submitted landowner petitions, which is the formal process they have to submit and turn in to request that. So the application is supported then by the landowner petition. So those formal steps have all occurred. Tonight's activity is an proposed adoption of resolution of intention to form the CFDs, and in the case of the infrastructure CFD, also to incur bonded indebtedness. Because that's how that tool works, is that once you formed a CFD, the developer is able to issue bonds at a future date to reimburse themselves for costs they've incurred that are eligible to be reimbursed by that financing. So if we're successful this evening, the next step would be on September 19th, as proposed, to have a public hearing to formally consider approval of the CFDs and the levy of special taxes. At that meeting, we would include an election of the landowners. It's not a complicated election because there's an owner, and he or she brought this forward, so it'd be very interesting to see them vote against it. But that would happen in the course of that meeting then, actually. And once that process is completed, the CFDs are formed, and then the special taxes, consistent with the rate and method of apportionment, which is the document that governs how we levy the taxes, would be driving the process of when we would do that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, too. So the first CFD we're proposing to talk about this evening is the CFD 2018-1, calling it Safety Services. Just because we're focusing on safety, because there's enough sufficient cost to make just be able to focus on that, although we did look at all costs when identifying the need in that region there. So that's what's being proposed. The formation documents allow for annexation then of future developments, as I mentioned a moment ago. So when the neighboring development comes forward and is ready to request building a CFD, or even they didn't want a CFD for infrastructure, the city can put a requirement on their development to annex into the services CFD, and this, over the long term, creates a revenue pool to offset city costs then. The rate method of apportionment would be adopted with the CFD. Like I said a minute ago, it sets the rate at $385 per home per year for single family, and then for multifamily, it's $358 per unit per home per year to the owner. The rate is proposed to be fixed for 5 years to kind of get things rolling, and then thereafter increase at 4% annually. The idea is that at the end of proposed build-out per the general plan, that the amount of revenue we're generating, if everything was built out, would generate enough resources to fund the proposed cost shortfall between the revenues generated and the costs being incurred. And while, who can know exactly what would happen 20 years down the road from now, but the idea is that with the numbers we have before us in the general plan, this math works. And it's currently the tract itself will generate $29,000, but it would increase substantially as other tracts are annexed into the district over time. The formation costs are roughly $30,000, and it would be borne by the city, since this is the district to benefit the city then. The other CFD, 2018-2, is being called Verdamont Ranch. Again, it's tract 17-329 with 74 proposed lots. I have a map, the picture of the boundary map on the next slide, but you have it in front of you as well then. It's hard to see on the screen. The rate method of apportionment here, too fast. The requesting formation of the CFD is to finance the cost of public improvements through a bond issue. Okay, so the other was the services CFD. This is the proposed facilities or infrastructure CFD. And while the document proposes a bond transaction not to exceed $5 million, the current plan per the costs they can incur within their pricing of their homes and the tax rate max that the goals and policies are adopted sets at 2%, only allows them to really go up to about $3 million. But if interest rates went down dramatically or different market considerations changed, there would be the ability to have a higher bond transaction. But today, that's really only about $3 million is what they can support and what they need basically to make their transaction work. The rate method of apportionment sets the amount per parcel per home each year with maximum tax levies. They can increase at 1% annually. But they range out of the gate at $25.67 per parcel for the smaller of the homes in the tract and $28.92 per house per year in the larger homes in the tract. And I believe there's 5 different house plans. And the amounts currently being proposed, not proposed here, but the calculated maximum tax rates will support the proposed bond issue. The formation costs here about $40,000. There's more work because there's going to be bonded indebtedness and so forth, and the developer's deposit, it's already been received by the city, will pay for those because it's to benefit the developer itself. There's that wonderful picture of the boundary map that you can't see from the video or from the screen, but you have it in front of you then. Again, this is Verdamont area. It's off Little League, and we're all pretty familiar with the Verdamont area there. And then lastly, the next steps would be if the mayor and city council approve these items tonight, the public hearing would be on September 19th, at which time you'd formally consider the formation of both CFDs and conduct an election of the property owners on approval of the special taxes. And then if that's successful, the CFDs are formed, and then we begin to levy the special taxes thereafter, consistent with the timing laid out in the RMA, or the rate and method of apportionment. Realistically, what that looks like is possibly 1920 for some of the levies, but more likely 2021, because it's for the infrastructure, it's when you pull building permits, and for the 2018-1, it would be the same time frame probably, but we don't have costs being incurred up there yet. So then lastly, the bonds would be issued at some date in the future when development is sufficiently completed that it can support a bond transaction. At this point in time, it's just raw land, and so you need to get further down the development process for the bond market to be able to absorb doing a transaction like that to then later reimburse the developers their costs. So with that, questions and...
And
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if you could introduce, because we do have several consultants that have assisted in this, and it might be helpful if he could introduce them, and because some of your questions may be better directed to them. So
Sure.
if you could spend just a minute introducing the team that put this together.
Okay. Again, that's Shane Lawrence. Shane Spicer is the mastermind behind all the number stuff, and he is probably your first person to contact with real detailed questions on the thoughts behind all the numbers. And then Lawrence Chan is with Stradling, Yaka, Carlson Roth, and the attorney that helps put together the formation documents and so forth. And so we've been best buddies for the last several weeks.
And
So.
then certainly the consultant I'm sorry, the developer is here as well in case you have development-related questions.
Thank you. Would you be able to explain what the amount of estimated property tax would be per parcel annually without the assessment and then with the assessment? What's that, those two numbers on average do you?
Yes, Shane Spicer, Spicer Consulting. The estimated property tax based on the proposed pricing provided by the developer, without the facilities district, is approximately $7,200. I'm trying to do some rough math here. Between $7,200, $7,500 without, and then additional $2,500, $2,700 on top of that with the facilities district. So that would make a total of about $10,200 per unit.
And the appetite for buyers to absorb that, have you been able to determine the ability for the potential buyers to absorb that?
Right. So this is really a question more in the marketing strategy that the developer will be needing to employ to move the units, to sell the homes. Even though this is the first CFD that the city has sponsored, this is a tool that's been used statewide, and there are thousands of these out there. So the residential market is very comfortable with these types of tax rates, this structure. It is necessary, as Mr. Mason mentioned, for competitive reasons for the developer to have access to this type of funding to be able to develop. As I mentioned, many communities already have very robust, sophisticated financing programs of this sort. So it's something that is used in many other cities. In fact, I'm sure the developer could answer to his experiences in other communities where he's been able to access these funds to sell his units. So absolutely, there's a market for it. I think the San Bernardino market will have to dictate where that is in line of the pricing plan that he has. However, there are some insurances that the city has take when setting these tax rates and when it comes time to market. As much as the city would be concerned that the pricing would be too aggressive for selling the units, so is a developer. He wants to ensure that he's not able, it's set too high, he's not going to be able to sell his units. And so there's concern where we work to ensure that this is a sound deal for both getting the project sold as well as the city acting as fiduciaries on the go forward to ensure that bonds are being paid and that the community's having a reasonable tax rate. So there's a balance there.
Thank you. Have you had the opportunity to explore the potential impact of the reduction in the allowed income tax itemized deductions that's now going to be capped at the 10,000, which would then potentially have a negative impact on someone now not being able to fully deduct all of those property tax and sales tax and state income tax? 'Cause for some people, then it's going to bump up against that. So has that been something that you've been able to incorporate in your analysis?
The pricing is really, it's right at that cap, so it's not really through that too much, and it's really more of a developer whether he can sell that, but we've had lots of conversation about the pricing, not in the context of the tax deductibility specifically, but as to are these reasonable prices to be able to support the kind of tax burden we're talking about. So while it's a lot of taxes, it's a lot of house also. And so that said, maybe the developer can just look you in the eye and speak to you at that point then, I guess, then.
Hi, I'm Felix Robles, GFR Homes. Yeah, we've looked into this as long as we don't exceed the 2%, and our pricing is competitive with every other projects out there in the Fontana area, the Rosena Ranch, we're competitive with the prices being in the high fours, mid to high fours to low fives, as long as we don't exceed that. But the larger product, we built for anywhere from, we're planning between 2,300 to maybe 3,400 square feet at the max. So based on those numbers, it's a competitive market. We can work with that and still get our homes sold. Currently, right now, we're building homes in San Bernardino, across the street from the university. We picked up a project there for 45 lots on it's a small lot project. Those are in the mid threes to going to be the high threes with HOAs, and I mean they're lower price, but they have very small lots. We're only on 2,500 square foot lots. These are minimum 10/8s, an average of about 12,000 square foot lots. So we've got a larger product going up there in the northern area, and I believe Beezer's up there in their project's going to be up there in about 3,500 square feet also. So that area is geared towards larger homes as opposed to the ones I have by the college. And the college, I mean, we don't even have the models up, and we've already got 12 sales. So I think the market is good for San Bernardino. Your guys are ready to go. I just don't want to miss the boat this time.
Thank you. Councilman Nickel?
Yeah, well, I think you addressed one of the questions I had. I'm excited about this. I think it's about time we got on track, and I was really happy when we got this item passed at our workshop, and I just want to commend staff for doing your due diligence. I did have some questions regarding the numbers. I've since had some time to go through them, and certainly that question was on my mind in terms of the tax deductibility, running through the numbers. You know, the alternative would be you'd have to tack these costs onto the price of the home. That would have to be absorbed into the cost of that home. I think this is a much better method of addressing those costs and doing it in a way that the market can also absorb. I think it's a great time to be building homes. We need rooftops in this part of the city. I'm constantly being asked by residents, well, when are we going to get the amenities, the retail establishments? And I keep telling them, well, you got to get the rooftops. So I just want to say thank you. And I did have a question on the 4% escalator. I assume we've done some cost analysis on that. I want to make sure, now just remind me on the public safety CFD, what happens to those monies? One of the biggest concerns that's expressed to me by residents is that, especially when it comes to police response, that they tend to be a lower priority. A lot of the crimes in that area are property crimes. Obviously, we have more serious crimes in the city that warrant immediate police response. So I'm constantly receiving complaints that it can take 6 to 8 hours for a response to a burglary. I want to make sure that those monies that are impounded as part of this CFD process, specifically for public safety, are impounded for the benefit of those property owners that are paying these fees. What assurances do you provide, or what is the disposition of those monies once collected in terms of the general fund, and how do we ensure equity in terms of those individuals getting a return on those monies that they will be paying year after year?
Great question. The funds, as a CFD, it's a restricted revenue source, and so it would not be commingled in the general fund. There would be a separate fund tracking the CFD revenues for CFD 18-1, 18-2. Every CFD would have its own accounting bucket, if you will, then. And the mechanism which you would do to spend those monies then is you would allocate costs to that bucket that are eligible. And so, we have an annual audit every year. The process is certainly subject to review by the public. Each year, we bring the levies forward. There's a calculation made each year by the tax consultant then that's looking at that. We would only be, now, it's not to bring heightened service there, so I don't want to give a sense or a promise that it's some additional special service. It's to help pay for the level of service that I don't want to say already exists.
It's actually paying for the incremental service change that we're going to recognize as a result of having those rooftops there. So it's an incremental service change. You know, how many more police officers are we going to need now that we're serving an area that consists of, in this case, 74 homes?
Now, how is that addressed in terms of other areas of the city that are demanding service as well? They aren't in a CFD.
Correct.
So how, again, to that question of equity, these people are going to be paying property tax. These folks are going to be paying sales tax. They're going to be paying utility users tax as everyone else in the city does. Plus, they're going to have this additional incremental CFD cost.
Yes.
And again, the concern that I anticipate will come down the road is ensuring that we can demonstrate that they're getting equity on that additional amount that they're spending that other areas of the city are not spending. Sure. So it's just a simple question of equity. I am going to support this. I'll make a motion to support. We're going to do one each individually, or how does this work?
And I want to just make one other clarification. And we recognize the need for public safety services because we're aware of the residents. It really is to fund all services, agency services. So, you know, we recognize the higher priority is that, but it's for all services.
I understand.
And Councilmember, we need to take each one separately.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion on the first one.
Second.
Councilman Mobile.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm not quite sure whether it's for Mr. Spicer or for Ms. Robles. School fees. At what part of the development process are school fees paid?
Does Felix want to answer? They're paid at the as part of the fees that are paid
At
development.
what part of the development process is that the front end or?
Front end, yeah. You have to pay them before you pull permits.
Before you pull permits?
And that's consistent with all of our developments.
Mm-hmm. I've heard it proposed that if the school fees payments, if they're substantial, that if school fees payments could be delayed until, say, occupancy, it'd be much beneficial to the developer.
It would help, yes.
And so I guess that's something that's, I've talked to people in the development business, and I think, we've talked about development impact fees, we're talking about CFDs and so forth. What are there some easy decisions that could be moved one way or the other that would help out development, that would speed development? And what has been brought back that'd be cost-free. The same amount of money is going to be going to the school district, except it would be delayed from the point that you haven't had a sale yet to the point that you'd have had a sale. And so I guess if we could, look into that, we'd have to get in touch with the school district, of course, but of course the school district ultimately is going to get paid. But the point is, it would really help developer to not have to pay that substantial fee at the front end, but rather when occupancy is attained. Thank you.
And we certainly can explore that with the school district, because I certainly want, just like I wouldn't want someone to promise that we're not going to get paid for a delayed period of time, but we certainly can explore that with them. I think, we have had some conversations as we're talking about other initiatives in the city. I think our school district is becoming a very good partner with us, and so I will certainly mention that to the superintendent.
It just seems to make good sense. It doesn't, there's no difference in terms of the amount of fees that are paid and the benefits, but the point is it really, it's a benefit to the developer in terms of just how much, capital you need at the front end and so forth. It just seems to make a lot of sense. Thank you.
Are you familiar with any areas where that type of modification has been implemented in any other cities? Or
I think your city attorney can.
So, yeah, the payment of school fees are actually provided for by state statute. And so the school district has complete authority over the collection of those fees and whether they're going to offer any discretion in how they collect them and when. I am familiar with some cities who have adopted resolutions to encourage development where they have made exceptions either by phasing in of large development and providing that a fee would be due prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, rather than requiring fee payment at the time a building permit is pulled.
We've had some very good dialogue with them about things that we need to collectively do to try to encourage development in the community, encourage investment in our city, because ultimately it's good for the city, good for the school district, and many other agencies that serve us. We have a regular now working group that is meeting on an ongoing basis, and we will explore that with them. We see this, and the county has been a terrific participant in that discussion, so we certainly will mention this to them, that this may be something that we collectively as a community can do to try to send a strong message to the development community that we would like to see their investment here.
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. This is for item 19.
On item 19, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Nichol, the second by Mr. Valdivia, and the item passes 6-0.
I'd like to move
Thank
item
you.
number 20, both.
We have a motion for item number 20.
Thank you.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes.
On item 20, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia and the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next is item number 21. This is a legislative update. We receive an update of the legislative platform, authorize the mayor on behalf of the city of San Bernardino to sign a letter in opposition of proposed Assembly Bill 2495 as introduced, and authorize the mayor on behalf of the city of San Bernardino to sign a letter of opposition for proposed Assembly Bill 2681.
Mr. Mayor, just as Rebecca's beginning her presentation, I did want to thank the developers. They've been terrific. We now have a working group of the developers that are interested in that particular area of the community, and they're already gone. But again, I think it's helpful. They've been very helpful in terms of continuing to steer towards ultimate development of that area. They've been supportive of the specific planning process. And I apologize, the Mayor Pro Tem's not here, but remember one of the items that he addressed was the need in that area for a specific plan that really begins to take all those specific plans and make sure that we're building out the amenities that are going to be needed in that large an area. So again, they're not here, but a terrific job by them coming to the table and being willing to have those good discussions with us. So,
thank you.
and now Rebecca's going to talk about the legislative platform and a couple pieces of legislation. And I think she's also going to introduce her crack administrative analyst that's been assisting with this.
Yes. I'd like to introduce Aaron Zavala. I think moving forward, he will be presenting these updates to you. But we wanted to have an opportunity, as you recall, in April, you adopted a legislative platform, which we intend to update on a regular basis and bring back before you. And in keeping with that, we have committed to you to provide you with regular updates and present to you letters of opposition support for your consideration so that we can be more proactive in responding to legislation at both the federal and state levels, as well as actions that may be taking place at the county level, and be proactive in that capacity. So with that in mind, we have just a brief update report that we had provided in terms of letters of opposition that you've issued previously. In April, you had identified 3 items that we sent out letters of opposition for. One of those is not moving forward. That was Senate Bill 827. And then 2 of those bills are in committee at this point in time, and so just wanted to keep you apprised of what's going on with them. In addition to providing you with that brief update of what's going on with actions you've already taken, we have 2 items that we would like for you to consider this evening in terms of presenting letters of opposition. The first one is AB 2495. This Senate Assembly bill would prohibit the city prosecution or an appeal case from essentially recovering our costs associated with that. And we certainly realize that there is a need to provide good notification in terms of actions that we are taking, but we don't want to lose that potential tool for those that have been ongoing violators with property to be able to recover some of the costs back to the city for prosecuting those actions. And so with that in mind, we are recommending that the mayor and council oppose AB 2495 as currently written and endorse the amendment drafted by the California Association of Code Enforcement Officers and the League of California Cities. We believe that the amendment provides for the procedural safeguards that I think addresses the concerns that were raised in this. And so we are recommending that you oppose and endorse the amendment as presented, and you have a letter for your consideration. The second item that we wanted to bring to your attention was Assembly Bill 2681. This is designed to help cities identify seismically vulnerable structures in their communities, and certainly we do, acknowledge the importance of that. Our concern with this particular Assembly Bill is in terms of the cost unfunded mandate, essentially, both to the city is having to complete that assessment with no secured funding set aside, and to the property owners that once we've identified them as potentially vulnerable, that they've got to do an engineering assessment on those. And so that's the reason that we are recommending, as presented, that you submitted a letter of opposition.
Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you. Great work. I appreciate the the update. Have you confirmed through Bill Tracker that these, in fact, have not died in committee hearings?
Yes, Aaron did a check, and maybe you can give a.
Yes, so I did a check as of August the 7th. So as of that date, they have either, if you go to attachment 1, they're either, that's the most current update. So it's either still in committee or has died. Is there a specific one you're asking?
I had heard that 2681 had died, but I didn't know if it. And you're saying you checked the Bill Tracker calendar as of the 7th?
Yes, as of the 7th.
Oh, well. I know they convened back on the 6th, so they're hearing all these committee sessions. I don't have a problem. A move for approval on this. We appreciate it. I don't know if some of these bills have already died, and I think 2681 has.
We will confirm. I had heard that.
If so, there's no need to send it.
That's right.
Okay.
And so we will send it.
Very good.
But if not.
Very well.
No further discussion? Councilman Nichol?
Yeah, no, I had heard similar discussion on 2681, but I did want to confirm. Now, currently, the city is obligated, or has developed an inventory of seismically, structurally, I want to make sure I phrase this correctly. There we are. That we've identified certain structures already. What is our responsibility, liability, now that we've identified those structures? Because one of the elements of 2681 that I understood was once you've done that assessment, basically the city is then relieved of some degree of liability. And my concern was, does that mean that we currently don't have any relief from liability based on what we've done already?
I mean, it's questionable, certainly, and I'm looking at the city attorney, because maybe in some of our other cities, it's arguable, because, anyone can bring a lawsuit at any time. I think what we would like to do, though, is go back through the inventory. If you recall, when we began discussing the whole issue of unreinforced masonry, one of the very strong concerns that was expressed by members of our public was that our inventory wasn't absolutely correct. And so I think this would give us an opportunity to go back and really do that. We're currently doing that now. I think our greater concern with this is that we're being mandated to go through the process, might provide some liability protection, but it may also not, and also does not give any additional resources in order to be able to help bring those then up to current
Right,
standards.
I understand. My biggest concern is now that we've done that inventory, are we liable should something occur? I was just worried when I read the text of some of this bill, well, does that mean that we aren't covered now, or did we set ourselves up for some
We are
additional
never
liability?
covered, ever.
Okay, no, I get that, but
I mean, if you look at the general law for being liable as a city, you're actually exempt from liability. It's through the Government Tort Claims Act that creates liability for the
Okay.
city. And so there's certain standards. You have to have a knowing dangerous condition and so on and so forth.
Okay,
So-
yeah, because I did
And-
receive some public comment, well, there are elements of this that we kind of like, because it
And
relieves us
then
of some
simply, our
liability.
simple identification of something as a potential issue doesn't necessarily expose us any greater than anything else that we do.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'll support this,
Well,
thank you.
we would like to help to kill it.
Let's put the nail in its coffin. The final nail was our letter.
Our letter's going to be the final straw.
We have a motion, we have a second for item number 21.
Yes, on item 21, the motion was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next is item number 22, ordinance number MC 1503, amending Chapter 5.10 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code related to the regulation of commercial cannabis activities. So,
And Mayor, members of the council, this is the item that you saw the other evening with the changes.
thank you for your comments. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Please cast your votes.
On item 22, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Ms. Marquez, and the item passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, before you adjourn, I promise it will be just one quick thing. I just wanted to, I'm aware of the complaints regarding the animal control services issue. We're trying to expedite the recruitment process. We have made a conditional offer of employment to one additional employee. We've got others that we're screening. We're trying to screen people and get them hired as quickly as we can. I did also have a very good meeting with Terry and Rebecca, Captain Green, our assistant chief, and I think someone else. Regardless, though, people who are responsible for the animal control program, we are quickly identifying improvements. We have about $600,000 or so in the shelter improvement fund that we can use. We're trying to identify, though, the highest priorities and identify those things that hopefully can make as much of an impact as possible with $600,000. So we're committed to the recruitment. We're also looking at our volunteer application process. They were, because of the attachment with the police department, going through a very lengthy process for volunteer background checks, but we're looking at ways to streamline that based on the level of access to our facility. So again, we'll get some things together. We're trying to address those concerns as quickly as we can, and I just want to assure you that that is being done.
And I just wanted to joke around, if I could, by saying I noticed that you were out of closed session really early today. You completed the meeting. I hope that has something to do with the fact that I get to sit with you this evening. And that we can continue to be efficient, even though I've spoken like 3 or 4 times. So.
And I have to tell you, I am so excited to have Sonia and Thomas here. They are remarkable. They have great attitudes. We've been able to resolve some things very quickly, and I can't say enough good things about having them on the team. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, we are very fortunate to have BB&K representing us, and we appreciate your coming on board. This meeting is adjourned unless there's any other comments. If we have none, then we're adjourned till Wednesday, September 5th, 2018, here in the council chambers. Good night and drive safely.